I missed dinner. I came in
We
late.
are on the air. WeatherBrains 439, June the 23rd. This is the pre-show, that wonderful time of this program where we tend to say outrageous things. We tend to get in trouble. We tend to infuriate people. We tend to be controversial and occasionally boring as we get our guest online here. So welcome to the YouTubers. Yeah, never boring. And more than likely, we'll get a show title here in the next 9 minutes.
I've already got one. Span gets discount on haircuts.
Exactly. We were just talking, for those not watching, I go get my hair cut at the same place where my wife gets her hair cut because I get a discount. And almost every time I'm in there, Bart Starr's wife is in there in the chair next to me. So I noticed John had a picture of Bart Starr behind him back there. So just, I don't know, made the connection there. So John, we're connected.
Outstanding. I have actually Aaron Rodgers' autograph on my bookcase here too.
How'd you get to be a Packers guy?
Oh,
yeah, how did that happen?
That's interesting. I grew up in New Jersey. I didn't like the Jets. I didn't like the Giants. And I read a book about Vince Lombardi. I was about 11 or 12 years old, and I became hooked, and I've been a Packer fan ever since. Die-hard Packer.
What's amazing, John looks like Joe Namath. Have you guys noticed that? He looks like Broadway Joe, a younger Broadway Joe.
Oh, thank you very much, James.
And a much more sober one.
Definitely sober. But you got that Hollywood look. I mean, the hair and the whole thing. You've got the Broadway Joe look there going.
I've never heard anyone say that to me. Thank you.
You should be on television.
Wow.
Yeah. You ever thought about doing TV?
Yeah, once or twice.
All right.
Funny you should mention him, James. I met him this past April.
Broadway Joe?
Broadway Joe.
Wow.
Wow.
Were you down at a pub with him or what, Brian?
No, I was at the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama, and he was the what do you call it? The Grand Marshal.
Yeah.
And got to shake his hand.
How old is Joe Namath now?
Oh, 70 something, right?
Yeah, it's got to be, yeah.
Yeah, because he would have had to have been born in the 40s, early 40s.
By the way, I'm enjoying another flat dinner in JB's honor tonight. See, I never knew what a flat dinner was. Now I know. I still don't know why they call this a flat dinner, because it's not flat, but hey.
I think only JB called it that.
Yeah, chicken Alfredo. This is part of the supplies we bought during a snowstorm here back in January. I know this is June. But
my business dates here.
It's the 3340 version of an MRE.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, the expiration date says April 13th, 2015, so this is good.
Oh, this is good through next winter.
No kidding, man.
Still fresh.
I think we spent about $300 at Walgreens that day. Getting down there was an exciting thing because nobody was going anywhere, and we made it down to the Walgreens, and so we blew it all out.
I take exception with that remark. I drove like 700 miles or something like that. So
Walgreens?
Getting around. I didn't have any trouble getting around.
Brian was the bus driver for the company. He got everybody in and out of here. I mean, he was like some kind of miracle man. I mean,
you should have seen the look on James' face when I walked into the studio about 6:30. He thought I was lost somewhere in I-65 South.
That was nuts. I remember I used the station, the weather Jeep, to get our son and his friend down to a fire station where a guy took them over the mountain to get home in a four-wheeler. That was a weird week. Hey, Mark is wanting in here. Let me bring him in. He just sent me a note. There we go. See, I've got this all. Bill's got it. Bill's organized now. He sends me the links to the Google Plus pages so I can get them in the circle early in the day. He's a very organized guest booking officer.
Aubrey says she has no internet, James, so she is going to miss. Aubrey has no internet.
How can this be?
She said the whole station's internet is down.
Oh.
Ouch.
Wow. Well,
An
sure.
engineer is on the way.
I mean, doesn't everybody have one of these things?
Exactly.
The Verizon Jetpack LTE. Now, this thing is fast. I mean, it's really good. And this
I've
one,
got to
like,
get a new one. Is that an
connect
AT&T
to
or a Verizon, James?
it's a Verizon, but you can
Verizon.
connect 10 devices on this thing,
Wow.
and it's screaming fast, the little MiFi thing there. All right, so I've invited Mark. Let's see if he can figure this out.
He did fine on the test today. He was the most, the easiest to actually connect with that I've ever had, with no instructions at all. And he had never.
I've watched this guy.
The Plus.
I've watched this guy for years. I've never met him. I don't think. Occasionally I'll see him float through on this 24/7 channel we do. In fact, the one that carries the WeatherBrains.
Right.
I think he does products for AccuWeather, doesn't he?
Exactly, he does.
Yeah.
He's the nicest guy.
We've had Dave Schwartz and Mark Mancuso. I mean, we had all these weather channel legends on here.
We got one on with us tonight.
That's what I'm saying.
John
He
Scala.
is one.
John Scala's a Weather Channel legend.
In his own mind.
The Weather Channel legend that looks like Joe Willie Namath.
Hey, John,
Yes.
I hate to tell you this,
Hey.
but you know what the word legend means?
I'm afraid to ask.
Uh-oh.
Old.
All right, hey, let's fix Brian's audio today, because we never got to this. You're doing the same thing. It's the Skylon, the Cylon thing.
Okay.
It's in Leo on his shows on Twit. He just tells people to plug and unplug the
Yeah, I did
USB.
that last week and it didn't work.
Yeah, there's something. It is a consistent now with you. How can we describe this, guys? Y'all have higher vocabulary.
Did it go away last week?
No.
Okay. Well, then
When you started, it was fine, and it
I've
just
got an audio
starts.
problem then because last week I actually just rebooted everything because that fix that you suggested didn't work. So
It almost sounds like somebody's doing that, sound when you're talking. As you talk, it modulates with that.
Now we're going downhill quick.
No,
Don't run Brian
No,
off.
that could be the show title.
There you go.
what interface are you using for that mic, Brian?
it's a Motu Ultralight MK3 USB.
Well, hello, gentlemen.
There's Mr. Mancuso.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Mark, can
Hey,
you
Mark.
hear us?
Yes, I can.
Excellent.
Wow, I'm a fanboy. This is great.
There's a bunch of fanboys on here.
Yeah, you know. Mark, how are you? It's been a long time.
Hey, how you doing, John?
I'm
Good to
great.
see you.
Good to see you.
Where are you, John?
Where am I?
Yeah, where are you these days?
I'm right here, Mark.
In the WeatherBrains digital studio.
That's right. Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just down the road from you, 2 hours away.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, Brian,
James, did that change anything?
Yes.
yes, you're clean
Yeah.
as a whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, explain to me why Google changes my settings.
They're bad about that.
Well, I didn't realize they were changing settings, but I thought I would just check. Did that take care of it, do you think? I'm testing one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
you
that's
are clean as
crystal clear.
clean as could be.
Okay.
Very-
All right.
I
Wow.
just got an error loading your app. Did I just cancel that out?
Well, why not?
There's another show title.
Get the, hey, we are on the air.
Yeah, if you were
Welcome to
thinking
a
about
cable
using
television.
Oh, I'm sorry, James. Go ahead.
I was saying, welcome to our cable television viewers. Welcome to the fun that is WeatherBrains. It's Monday night. We just went on cable television here. We're glad you're with us. And going to start the show. Everybody's here, so we can start here in just a second. I'm going to put my little super in here, and we can get this thing started. Well, go ahead, Bill. I just had to welcome our cable television viewers.
I was going to suggest if we were going to use the show title "Going Downhill Fast," that one was taken a long time ago, so we couldn't use that one.
We've had some weird show titles. I think we ought to go back and review some of the odd show titles we've had. They've been pretty strange. All right, well, let's get this sucker going. And the weather is actually not too bad tonight. I was afraid we had some thunderstorms here. All right, record number 1, record number 2.
Camera 8, stand by.
Uh-oh. Hey, Brian, you started making that weird noise again.
Well, that's very strange.
I'm hearing an ice cream truck song. Do y'all hear that?
I hear that too.
That's my cuckoo clock.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought the ice cream truck was pulled up in front of somebody's yard there, selling ice cream. Hey, Brian, give me a mic check, man.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1.
Now that was clean, and now the phone's ringing.
Yeah. Probably some marketer, telemarketer.
Selling
Is
ice
that your
cream.
phone, Brian?
Yes, it is.
Maybe it's the
Selling
new owner calling. All right, let's get this thing going. I got the.
Would you
recorder.
like to be the chief, Brian? There's going to be an opening.
Here we go. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3. Calm down. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains. Oh, it's time to talk a little weather, ladies and gentlemen. This is WeatherBrains episode. Wait a minute. Let me restart that. I didn't like that. I botched it.
Is that a balk?
Mixer. Yeah, it was a balk. Get a mulligan. Here we go. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains. It's time to talk a little weather, ladies and gentlemen. This is WeatherBrains episode number 439 for June 23rd, 2014. We are cruising through the summer. We are into the official summer. Had the solstice a few days ago. And glad you're here. This is James, and we've got, I think this is going to be a fun show tonight. I'm excited. Look around the big digital mahogany table. I'm seeing all these big brains on the program, including the internationally beloved meteorologist, former government employee, warning coordination meteorologist extraordinaire, Brian Peters.
Retired.
We have 2 WCMs on the show. We have one that's retired. We have one that is active. But see, Brian, you can say whatever you want to. You know, Rick is tied in where he can't say a lot. But you can
that's
say whatever you want.
true.
You're unrestrained.
Brian says what I'm thinking.
I think sometimes I probably do, Rick.
I think we think a lot
I
alike.
want to know, how was the WCM conference, Rick? Since we got WCM topic tonight.
Okay. Telepathically, I'm telling you right now.
Wow.
That doesn't work on a podcast.
You know, honestly, Rick, I think the scariest part about it is that I was at the last national WCM meeting.
14 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that
it was
something?
great. It was a lot of fun. It was
I bet
a
it
really
was.
good experience, I think.
Oh.
Now, what was this thing? Where was Craven? He was at like the Sioux conference. They had that going on, didn't they?
Well, they had a. They've got the southern
like
region
Lake
divided
Charles.
up into. Yeah, they've got these different groups of. The southern region of the Weather Service is divided up into 4 groups, and this was the West Gulf group of all the Sioux got together. So they were inspired by the WCMs, of course. But I don't know what Jeff Craven was doing down in Lake Charles.
Yeah.
Unless Sullivan, Wisconsin's been annexed by the southern region. Looked like a good conference, though.
Yep. All right. So Brian, what's on your mind, man? To talk to me. Tell me what's happening.
Well, I tell you, I'm already tired of summer thunderstorms, and as you noted, the summer solstice only began over the weekend, so I'm already tired of these summer thunderstorms. I actually got, believe it or not, about a 13-degree temperature drop and not a single drop of rain over the weekend. I had a thunderstorm move by just to the north and one to the south. My temperature dropped from 93 to 70. Let's see, what was it? 93 to 77, 76. So, but no rain, not a drop of rain. That's summer thunderstorms for you.
I think we ought to get Doswell on here to talk about air mass storms. You ever heard Chuck go on his tirade about these things?
Oh, yes.
And that's one of the great mysteries. You know, we have them every day. We don't know where they're going to pop up. They just show up. And
it's
frustrating.
kind of a downer of a week, too, in the loss of Alan Moeller.
Very much so.
Yeah, you know, we probably ought to talk about that. I mean, he was really one of the guys that had a great influence on me. In fact, a lot of the things I say kind of comes from Alan Moeller. I would love to hear him speak. Me
too.
Goodness, I was in Texas in the 80s in Fort Worth in television, and it was getting to know people like Al Moeller was just a big part of. I think the success I've had, I've learned a lot from these guys, and I knew that his health was not good.
Yeah.
And I think we all knew this was coming, but it's always harder when it does happen. But hopefully, it reunited some folks and we got to see each other.
He was one of my mentors, not Chuck, but I mean Chuck's always a hero there, but Al Moeller was one of my heroes and one of my mentors, and I learned a lot about spotter training from Al and all of his work, and I think one of the best things about Al was just his pure enthusiasm for the field of meteorology and for storms and for getting the word out.
Yeah, in fact, I think I'm going to make this my pick of the week if I can find it. There was a documentary on the Wichita Falls tornado in 1979 called Terrible Tuesday.
Yeah,
remember that one, Brian?
Yes,
Al Moeller was the guy. He was the voice of that. So that'll be my pick of the week. But anyway, Mr. Retired WCM, glad you're here. And we have an active WCM and Rick Smith in Oklahoma. Rick, how's life in your world?
Oh, it's beautiful. Had some rain this morning. I can attest to the fact that the wireless emergency alerts work well for flash flood warnings. 3:30 this morning.
They're loud.
We were up and paying attention, watching for any flooding threats that were ongoing in the house here. But no, it was good. It was anytime you're getting rain in June, it's nice. And you guys are talking about Al Moeller, and James, you mentioned the Terrible Tuesday. Well, I found another video that Al did. He did this. Brian, I know you probably have this one memorized too. The tornado a spotter's guide video. Kind of the accompaniment to the slide series that we used to do spotter training with, and
yes,
I dug that up. It's actually on our Weather Service Norman YouTube channel, and shared that earlier this week. And I can still probably recite every line of that. We've probably seen that hundreds of times, but Al's voice is in there, and I was privileged to see Al do a spotter class just one time. And I'll never forget it. It was when I lived in Texas briefly, and he was doing an advanced class, and toward the end of the class, the vorticity equation popped up on the slides, and a piece of garden hose came out at the same time, and he started demonstrating stretching and tilting with a garden hose, and people were hanging on every word. They may not have understood what he was saying, but it was Al. And then he wrapped up by showing just beautiful photography that he had done, and he was a real pioneer and made a lot of contributions, so he'll be missed.
Yes.
I'm sitting here. What I'm doing, I'm actually trying to find that Terrible Tuesday video, the original one he did. But hey, let me ask you a question, Rick. Going back to the wireless alerts, I get people ask me that all the time. So here's the question, and I will pose it to our two WCMs here. People say, okay, I get these wireless emergency alerts on my phone. Why do I need a warning app? And I don't know how the WE thing works. I don't know how the wireless alerts, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know who initiates it. I don't know the reliability. What would you guys respond to that question?
I always respond, you cannot have too many ways to get a warning.
Bingo.
Usually what we hear is, well, I don't need a weather radio anymore because I've got apps on my phone. But I can tell you apps don't always work. The WEA comes after the Weather Service issues a warning. It essentially goes it goes through the cell phone carriers, and the message is truncated, and then that goes out, and it's broadcast on all the cell phone antennas within the warning area. So it's pretty quick and pretty hands off, and that's a good thing. But I would have all of the above. I tell people you have to have at least 3 different ways, and 3 apps doesn't count.
Yeah.
So John Scala, how many apps do you have for warnings on your phone?
I think it's 3 actually. And I have a NOAA weather radio right here in my house.
Well, John is going to be interesting to interact with our guests this evening. In fact, Bill, let me let you go ahead and bring in our special guest before he hangs up on us.
Yeah, James. And I've got a question for Rick before we get started. I saw something mentioned in one of the Weather Chase Digest posts this week. Rick, what is a NIMS protocol? Do you know what that is?
NIMS protocol. NIMS is the National Incident Management System. And that is the system in which all the public safety agencies, emergency management, from the federal all the way down to the city level work. And you've heard of the incident command system. Well, that's incident command system falls under NIMS. So 10 years ago, 5 years ago, Weather Service wouldn't have had any idea what those acronyms stood for, but we're actively engaged in that training and for the decision support activities we provide, so we can speak the language and know where we fit in the whole structure. So, yeah, new acronyms.
Outstanding. Well, I thought you might know that, and thank you for enlightening me. I appreciate that. And I have been looking forward to this show since April when I met tonight's guest, WeatherBrain, at the Southeast Severe Storm Symposium at Mississippi State University. I had the best time meeting him, and he needs no introduction to this group. He's, of course, one of the original on-camera meteorologists at the Weather Channel, a position that he held from 1982 until 2009. He's currently an expert and video broadcaster at AccuWeather. Mark Mancuso, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bill. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound perfect.
Yeah, so I've had a little problems here with connectivity, but it's great to be with you guys. And it's kind of funny, John, you mentioned about the apps on your phone and everything else. I used to have the Notify from the Weather Channel, getting the warnings here, and it all started. My wife was at a McDonald's years ago with her friends, and there was a severe thunderstorm, and she said, "Hey, you never told me about the severe thunderstorm coming." So I got her on the Notify. We watched the warning, came in across her phone. She was ready to kill me. We get the phone going off in the middle of the night, but that has stopped now. Now I have the AccuWeather app, so I'm using that. But I got a lot of hot water over all the warnings there.
There you go. Well, now, Mark, when you talk about the important developments in weather, you talk about the Tyro satellite or computers or radar or even the telegraph. In my lifetime, it was NOAA weather radio, and then eventually the Weather Channel's arrival was a big thing for me because you lived, in the late 70s and early 80s. You were starving for weather information. So it's a real honor to have you on the show tonight, so we can sort of reminisce and look back at a simpler time. 1982. I went up and pulled the YouTube video this afternoon while we were riding to Louisiana, and there exists a 1-hour video of that opening ceremony, and then the first 30 minutes of the channel being on the air, and I made that my pick tonight. But I thought we'd spend a few minutes and talk about that. What did you think when they approached you and told you about this idea back in the early 80s?
Well, at that time, I was working in Knoxville, Tennessee. And the meteorologist who was there before me, Bob Richards, he was working in Atlanta, and he was working for WSB, the ABC affiliate. And John Coleman from ABC, Good Morning America, used to do some cut-ins there, and he told Bob about it. And Bob used to always come back up to Knoxville, and he told me about it. And a lot of people in Knoxville, they wanted to go to Atlanta, and so I said, heck, why not? And going from Knoxville, which is a very nice city, to the big city, Atlanta, and John Coleman called me up, and he says, "Mark, you're the 13th meteorologist. I don't know if that's good luck or bad luck." And I told John, I always considered 13 to be my lucky number, so it was very exciting to get started with that. But the nice part about it was meeting people from all around the country. There were people from California, from Washington State, from southern states, Florida, up in the Northeast, and we all came together and for the first few days, first few weeks, we didn't have any equipment. And so we all just kind of made friends. We went to the mall, local malls together. And then, so we kind of built a camaraderie before we even got started working. And then eventually we got all our equipment in, and everything went from there.
So that probably was a very important step, developing that chemistry before you even had any protocols in place.
Oh, yeah. We used to go out, hang out, and we used to have some good times together. So we made our friendships. And it was kind of interesting, too, when the shifts got picked. They would ask us, are you a morning person? Are you a night person? And I said, hey, I'm a night person because I was young at the time, and so I got on the night shift. So I'll never say that. I'm no longer a night person.
So now, Mark, talk about Joe DeLeo's role in that, and I know he was a very important part of that process, wasn't he?
Oh, great meteorologist. You couldn't ask for anybody better to work with. So knowledgeable, and he was the driving force behind all the meteorology there. The thunderstorm maps that were produced, the forecast graphics. He and John came together. The certain style that they wanted, but all the isobars had to be drawn on the current maps. We had all our meteorologists looking at weather obs. The way it is now, there's so many automated obs, but at that time, you had weather observers, like out in the mountains in Colorado. You had Rifle, Colorado, so snow shower unknown, northwest. And so everybody would know where there was a snow shower. We used to have to know all the observers coming in. So all that information was put into our current maps. So they were pretty detailed.
Well, the graphic systems were rather primitive by today's standards, but I tell you what, there was a lot of information on those maps back then.
Yeah, we had a whole staff of artists there, and the technology that we had at the time, we went through different graphic systems. Oh my God, I can't even think of the names. But we went through like 3 or 4 different sets. You'd have to learn them all over again. So, we were going through it. But the funny thing is we used to have to get our weather information from the fax machine. And we used to all gather around the fax when the models would come in. So looking at it upside down to see one line at a time coming on in. But once the internet came in, that all changed. I used to say the combination of the internet and Paul Coast and the room.
Is that Mark's bandwidth or my bandwidth that's going crazy there? So
I think Mark's.
Yeah, well, that. Do you remember? Yeah, Mark, can you hear us now? So.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now you're better. We lost your bandwidth there for just a second. So, yeah, I think we all remember leaning over the old die fax machine. Can you hear us?
Right, and I used to say, the internet came and Paul Cosin came. Paul Cosin and the winter storms and nor'easters. And I said that would be the ruination because the internet, there's so much information coming in now. And then talking to Paul about winter storms all the time, that used to be a lot of fun too.
So Mark, talk for a moment about the business side of the Weather Channel. I know you were on camera and concerned mostly about meteorology, but did you have this feel that you were working for a very important startup at the time?
Well, everybody used to tell us, that we wanted to be the weather source. A lot of us, we weren't quite sure that was really going to happen, and because we had, small penetration there at financial problems at the beginning too. So, a lot of us weren't quite sure that, that we would be the weather source, but weather, sir.
So, Mark, talk for a moment about John Coleman and how he was forced out as the entrepreneur in the process. Can you talk about that? This may not.
I think we've lost Mark with bandwidth issues.
I think so, James.
See, these things always work flawlessly when we test them out, and when we get on the show, they never work right.
I'd suggest he drop his video, see if that helps.
Yeah, there's a setting on the top, Mark, where you can, if you hover over it with your mouse, you can turn your camera off, and it may help your bandwidth a little bit.
Oh, boy. Can you hear me okay now?
Now, how about now?
Yeah.
Mark, if you hover over the top of the screen in this Hangout, you can turn your camera off, and it helps your bandwidth a little bit. There we go.
See.
Now talk to us. Aubrey right now is checking in, says she feels trapped without internet. When Mark feels the same.
How do we sound now?
Oh, that's much better. Keep talking.
Is it any better now?
That's good. All right, let's try again.
I see. I never.
Actually, about that time we say it's working, it's not working. So it might be a case, Bill, where you might have to do the magic telephone deal where you just magically slip away and do the recorded telephone. I hate that because everybody. I would love to ask Mark some questions, but
yeah.
sometimes
I
it
feel
is
guilty,
what it is.
Yeah. I feel guilty. How can I get some of your questions? What are some things you guys wanted to make sure he talked about tonight?
Who was the biggest jerk that worked at the Weather Channel?
Yeah, there we go. That's a good one.
I want to know. Get the dirt. Get the dirt going, man.
Yeah, dirt.
You know there was some. There had to be some jerk. There's always one everywhere. I mean, everywhere you work, there's always one. So, hey, he's back. Mark, can you hear us now? He's totally frozen.
Can you hear you okay?
Mark, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you in about 2 minutes, okay? And we'll record the interview and drop it into the show. So I'll be calling you in just a moment. Thank you, James. Thank you, guys, and I'll talk to y'all in just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is
That's a shame.
Our producer will always love it when we have these kind of things here. So what we're going to do is take Mark out, and we are going to, and the way we're going to do this, in the produced podcast, in theory, nobody will know we had problems here. This is just on the live version. So Bill is going to do the interview with Mark on, he's going to record that, and we'll drop that in. So early in the morning when the show is released to the world, it will be there on the audio version. But on this, we're going to keep on going. We're going to do Picks of the Week. We'll do Fog Bank. We'll do Weather Roundup. Nate is not. I just noticed, where's Nate tonight?
Yeah, I was asking that myself.
I don't know.
He has gone absent without leave.
Was he on vacation? I think he was on vacation. I saw some email that said he was having some family time.
Could be. And Brian, your audio weirdness has come back again. That is just strange because when you say you changed the settings, it cleared up just beautifully, and now it's back to the Cylon kind of thing. So
yeah, and the settings didn't change.
Wow. Yeah, it's a common problem. It sounds like some of the guests on Leo Laporte shows on Twit, they get that noise and they just, I don't know what they do. They unplug the USB port and plug it back in or something. But whatever, since we are in the midst of technical chaos, let's do a couple of recorded segments. We'll do Professor Peters and WeatherBrains 101. We'll come back with the Weather Roundup and much more. In fact, let me do this for editing purposes. JP, our producer, I'm just going to kind of pick it up like we're finishing the interview. So here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks a lot, Bill. Great to hear from Mark. That was a marvelous interview. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to have Professor Peters. We'll come back with the Weather Roundup, the Picks of the Week, the Fog Bank, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
Lightning Safety Week is going on this week in the United States as an effort by the National Weather Service and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to bring attention to the lightning dangers. Lightning is quite fascinating and may well have been one of the items that piqued my interest in weather at an early age. But lightning is dangerous, and there are no specific lightning warnings. Yet each year there can be between 20 and 25 million cloud-to-ground lightning strikes in the United States, each one of which can potentially kill. So lightning is a very common occurrence. Now, nature does help to warn us about the presence of lightning with the thunder. The thunder results from the violent separation of the air as the electrical charge travels through it. And unfortunately, lightning research has shown that a second lightning strike can occur anywhere within about a 10-mile radius of that first lightning strike. So we have the saying, when thunder roars, go indoors. And inside a substantial building provides the greatest safety from lightning. Automobiles, hardtops only, not convertibles, also offer safe havens. Lightning striking an automobile will follow the metal skin of the vehicle to the ground, generally protecting the occupants. Lightning deaths are not always fully documented, but from the documented cases, we know that an average of about 51 people are killed each year by lightning. So don't be a statistic and heed that danger. As J.B. Elliott has often said, lightning is frightening. If you have a question about the weather, drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
Oh, yeah. We had some active weather last week, Rick. Some severe weather north of you, Nebraska and South Dakota. Took a hard hit last week, huh?
Quite a bit, yeah. Quite a few tornadoes, some significant tornadoes. And I think on last week's show, those twin tornadoes up in Pilger, Nebraska just happened. And, those were eventually rated EF4. So, just when you think you've seen it all, you have two EF4s, and not this typical satellite relationship we sometimes see with tornadoes, but actually two independent tornadoes moving along. So busy week up there. A little bit quieter tonight. There's a few thunderstorms over in the Rockies and down into New Mexico, and a few out east. But weather map's much quieter tonight. And looks like big story for at least the early part of this week is going to be some heavy rain down in the Arklatex area. Parts of that area down into East Texas may see 3 to 4 inches of rain by the time we get through this week, and I'm sure they could use it. I wish we could shift it a little bit further west, but otherwise kind of quiet this week.
How's the drought situation, Rick?
It's every little bit helps, but there's places. Oklahoma City, I think we set a new record 24-hour rainfall last night. We had over 3 inches.
Oh, yeah.
And we've spread it out. We had some good rains over northwest Oklahoma. And actually, tomorrow we're going to be traveling down to Wichita Falls with about 175 people to talk about the drought and talk about mitigation and dealing with it and what the weather outlook is. So, it's a bad situation, but gosh, when it's June 23rd, and we're getting rain and thunderstorms still, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like Dallas got some good rain this morning. In fact, I saw it looked like some flooding video from Granbury and Glen Rose down there below Fort Worth.
Yep, they had quite a bit of flooding, and I just saw something pop through Twitter here that the Waco, Texas ASOS had 1/3 of an inch of rain in 1 minute earlier today. So
what?
That's yeah, 1 minute precip, 0.32 inches in 1 minute. That's there's places in Oklahoma that got that in a year probably. So that's pretty intense.
Wow, goodness.
Well,
all right, tropics. Dr. Scala is our tropical expert.
Oh, really?
Well, you're the doctor, so it's quiet as typically is the case in June. And any ideas for the rest of the season?
Well, everybody's hinging their bets, of course, on what the phase of the ENSO is going to be, and I've come across several articles quoting unnamed sources that this will be a quiet season. Well, an average would be somewhat quiet compared to what we've seen recently, but we're going to have to see just how strong this El Nino will be as it moves through the next several months.
And I'm seeing varying stories on that too. I'm not so sure this might be the El Nino that some people thought it was going to be, but
we'll have to see how it pans out.
Things.
Yeah. Hey, listen, James. We were talking about Nebraska. Yesterday was an anniversary that we should mention. June the 22nd, 2003. Ring a bell for anyone? The Aurora hailstone. 7-inch diameter hailstone fell in Aurora, Nebraska, 11 years ago yesterday.
So one of you smart guys help me out with this now. You got a 7-inch hailstone. What would be the vertical velocity that thing would achieve on the way down near the surface? Any guess?
Well, the Coffeyville hailstone, which was just under 7 inches in diameter, you do some physics with that and assume a drag coefficient, assume the density of the ice, you come up with about 120 miles per hour for the terminal velocity. So this
That's
storm was
basically like being hit by the fastest pitcher in baseball is throwing 100 miles an hour.
right.
So you got this 7-inch diameter block of ice coming down at 120 miles an hour. That could kill somebody at that velocity.
No question.
Absolutely.
No question.
You see some huge craters in the ground. I think I remember with the Aurora hailstone and some other ones. The craters. These are like meteorites or something falling. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, the Vivian, South Dakota 8-inch stone that fell 2 years ago next month left a 3-inch hole in the ground when it hit.
Yeah.
And by the way, we should mention that Aubrey Urbanowitz is not on the show tonight. They apparently have no internet connection at the television station where she is, which would make life interesting. And I think maybe Mark Mancuso is at the television station where Aubrey is, and that's the reason he's got no internet connection. So, but anyway, what we're going to do a double mail segment next week. And let me say this too while we're doing some logistical notes here. We're going to do 2 shows this week. I will be gone next week on vacation, so we're going to do next week's show this Wednesday. So, again, this show is being done on June 23rd. The next show will be on Wednesday, June 25th, and we'll stream it live. Same thing here at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, live.bigbrainsmedia.com. We will release that show to the world on Monday the 30th, and that will be the regular show for next week. And after that, we'll get back on the regular schedule here. But anyway, Aubrey is out, so we have no email segment, but I think I saw floating across one of the email notes this link to this article, and let me see if I can pull this up on the screen share here. Yeah, I think this is it. I saw it on Google Plus, but the bottom line is it says local TV weather exaggerates weather reports to get you to tune in. Did you guys see this article?
No, I missed that one.
All right, let me pull up the screen share here. We'll kind of look at this thing together. And again, for those of you listening, we'll be very descriptive. So there you go. This is in Business Insider, which I guess is a magazine. Confirmed your local weatherman is exaggerating. And it looks like they've got some guy that looks like Channel 4 in Oklahoma City, doesn't it? Rick, can you see that graphic on there?
Yeah, the logo is definitely KFOR, but everything else on there is something weird.
Yeah, it looks like Brick Tamland from the movie Anchorman.
Yeah, kind of does. But smiley face on the Saturday on the extended. That's
Yeah. So what they've got here, they pulled this chart, which is basically, I think, originated from Nate Silver's book, The Signal and the Noise. And this shows the accuracy of the 3 weather forecasting services. They've got the National Weather Service, the Weather Channel, and local TV meteorologists. And, of course, they got the local TV guys, with these really bad scores on this thing. And if you dig deep into this, they pulled this local TV meteorologist data from one market in the whole country, which was Kansas City. And even that, I question their techniques because a lot of television meteorologists don't use point pop forecast, probability of precipitation, which is what they're basing this on. So basically they're indicting all of the broadcast meteorologists in the country with this one graph. And this bozo on Google Plus, this guy named Mike Elgin, who actually works for Leo Laporte, who does Tech News Today, and it says the local TV weather report BS with partly scattered explanations. So, this is the problem, and I've said this on here before, and you get a lot of these guys that sit out here in San Francisco, these tech journalists, and they've got this God syndrome thing, and they just sit back and they file these little potty mouth tirades on things they don't understand. They think, San Francisco weather is the way the entire nation has weather, where in San Francisco they don't deal with tornadoes or severe storms or flash floods or, devastating heat waves or devastating droughts, the things that we deal with out here in the heartland. And basically he's just putting down the whole profession. But I would recommend that Mr. Elgin might want to leave San Francisco sometime and see that weather is actually important, and television meteorologists actually serve a very important position. He apparently doesn't think so, but I left Mike some choice comments in his little post there, and of course he didn't respond. So.
Well, I guess I do remember seeing that now, but I had no idea they just picked one station out there, and that represented everybody in the country. That's kind of shady.
Yeah,
I give a talk.
Again, I think it's good that they recognize that the Weather Service does a great job. I mean,
well, yeah, of course.
And I say this all the time. People think that automatically, if you do television weather, that you are an idiot. And it just dawned on me that I just put that up on cable television. That bad word. Whoops. When I'm fired, I'll probably be fired anyway. But people think of television weather people as idiots and morons and Brig Tamlin and all this. And I say this all the time. And sure, we make mistakes. My middle name is Mistake. You learn humility in this business. You are going to be wrong. You've been wrong before. You're going to be wrong again. You're going to make some big mistakes, and that's just part of this. But if you think it's so easy, I would challenge Mr. Elgin to go on my green wall in here, and let's put him out there during an April 27th, 2011 tornado outbreak for 14 hours and see how he performs if he thinks he's so smart. And I might put him up to that challenge to see if he wants to do that. I somehow don't think he will.
James, some of this attitude is being transmitted down to the kids. I give a talk every spring to all of the 8th grade science students at one of the local middle schools. And I give my spiel, and I'm done. I take questions. It's usually a good group, but there's one or two wild cards in there. And last year, an 8th grader stood up and said, "My dad wants to know how you keep your job when you're wrong so much."
No, that's what they say. They say, these guys are wrong 90% of the time. How do they keep their job? Well, come on.
Yeah.
Rick, does the Weather Service still keep pretty good verification stats for forecasts from the Weather Service?
Oh yeah, we are pretty meticulous about that, and as long as you're not going to ask me what they are at this point. But
no, I'm not. But a ballpark, to a 48-hour forecast. What's a ballpark? 90 to 95%, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there. The 4 to 5 day forecast is better than the 2 to 3 day forecast was several years ago. So yeah, it's way up there, and you can see even with their questionable science on some of their graphs there, forecast is very reliable when you look at it over time, and yeah, that drives me nuts too. We hear that too, and it's just not true.
So, but here's another thing though that I was going to ask Mark about this, and maybe Bill will. I think it's AccuWeather. Correct me if I'm wrong, and Rick probably can't comment on this because of his position, but John can. Aren't they doing like a 30-day forecast now?
It's a 40-day.
Yeah.
45-day forecast.
Yeah, there are some companies providing that now.
So, and here's the other problem I'm getting now, because people want to know. Well, I'm going on a cruise July, 30th, and it's June 23rd right now, and they were checking their app, and it said there was a 60% chance of rain on one day and a 30% chance of rain on another day, and this is like 35 days in advance. My position. I really don't think we have a lot of skill at a specific forecast beyond 7 days. Would you guys agree or disagree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I remember when you were...
Where do they derive this data? I mean, I was going to ask Mark this. I mean, that's just... That's off the deep end.
Well, they're basically looking at trends also. They're looking at climatology 45 days from now, and then trying to apply some kind of improvement on top of that forecast, and saying we think it'll be so much percentage above average or below average. It's an outlook. It's really not a forecast.
But it just seems like people believe this is a forecast, and I've even got a problem here. Our stock station app, the weather app, and I think most TV stations have these stock weather apps coming from WSI or Weather Central, whoever their vendor is, and it's got a 10-day forecast. Drives me nuts. I had no control. That's part of the reason for the birth of the James Spann branded app, was to do all human-powered weather. Every product, every service I do, go to that one. If you want the automated stuff, go to the other one. But even that's a 10-day forecast, and that's stretching it. And you guys have seen the Moss products. Those things skew toward climatology in days 5, 6, and 7.
No question.
I just don't know. I think in my old age, I'd like to admit the things we can't do, and there's just a lot of things we can't do. And I'm not so sure it's wise going out there and doing these, 15, 20, 45-day forecasts. Now, Brian Peters could, because he is the world-renowned. You're muted, Brian. Unmute.
He is muted.
Yeah, he muted himself.
Yeah, that's. I've had some very big busts.
There are days, Brian, where we've busted 2 hours in advance. I don't even want to try 42 days in advance. But to me, and I don't mean to sound like a jerk or something, but I think it's remarkable how good the short-term weather forecasts are produced by the government, the private sector, considering the complexity of this job. And I think we've come a long way. I think the short-term forecasts are very good.
And the complexity of the atmosphere we're trying to forecast.
Well, just total chaos. And, and the problem is everybody, and what happened to us, we busted back in January. They're going to look back at that for years. Well, these bozos, said we're going to have a dusting of snow, and it snowed 2 inches here.
Yeah.
And they remember the one that you're only as good as your last forecast, but they tend to remember those bad ones. So, but that's just the way it is. All right. So listen, we don't have the email segment tonight because Aubrey is not here. So we're going to go right to picks of the week, and as we always do, we're going to go with a fog bank.
Greetings and felicitations.
Hello, WeatherBrains listeners. This is David Phillips. You can send me your picks of the week to @Skydaver on Twitter. First up, Storm Geek @WXSCI on Twitter posted an article about refinement of wind scales. The Earth Science picture of the day had a great photo of twin sundogs. Got the Earth Science picture of the day again, with all sorts of atmospheric niceties. Upper tangent arcs, sundogs, glitter path, and a halo. Spaceweather.com had a couple of great Kelvin Helmholtz cloud photos, and the supercell storm of May 8th.
My Sky Day going to be and this was put together by NOAA, the National Weather Service, and Al Mohler, who passed away last week, is the voice in that and very prominently featured. And I clearly remember that event. We did not have a major severe weather outbreak where I am during that event. We had a major flood event. In fact, this was a major river flood event. But that was a wild month, and again, that was a one to remember. Rick, were you around in '79? Were you alive then? Hello, Rick. Did we lose Rick? Am I talking to myself?
Oh, are you kidding? Yeah, I was a teenager in '79. I don't. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay. I don't remember that specific event, but I know that my former boss worked in the office, that was the event that got him into meteorology. April 10th, 79, I think April 11th, 79, Mike Foster was headed to Norman to enroll in OU and do meteorology. So that had a huge effect on a lot of people. And traveling, you know, Wichita Falls is in my county warning area, so we're down there all the time, and you know, that's the last big tornado they've had down there. There hasn't been another significant tornado in that area since 1979. So there's still people there that lived through that and remember it, and it left a mark for sure.
Yep, and again, I think for the time, the documentary done by the Weather Service was really good. And remember, this was back in the late 70s, but that's my pick of the week. And all of these picks will be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. Brian Peters, what's your pick of the week?
Well, in light of, and you know, I know it's a downer about the passing of Al Mohler, but it made me think back to some information I used to subscribe to with a publication that was put out originally, I believe, by Dr. Tim Marshall, or by Tim Marshall. I guess I'm not sure if he's a doctor or not. But anyway,
he should be.
The Storm Track, and so I was doing a search earlier today, and Storm Track is still alive on the web. So I'm going to have a link to it's stormtrack.org, and in honor of Al.
Fantastic, John Scully, got a pick for us this week.
Absolutely, James. This is an article that I came across in Live Science. Now, I'm all for educating the public. In fact, when I'm on the air, I'm always using some portion of my time to educate. And I came across this article, which is actually discussing a recent publication in the journal Nature Climate Change. I'm not familiar with this publication, but the article seemed to have a good premise. And the title is Worst Spots for Weather Extremes Found. And I thought, really? New science. Interesting. So I went on to read this, and really what they're talking about is the jet stream. But it is so dummied down for the average person. Let me read a paragraph to you. These atmospheric waves shove air around the planet, sucking warmth up from the tropics and cold air down from the Arctic. Extreme weather hits when the swoops freeze in their tracks, trapping storms, heat, or cold in place for weeks. Oh, help me.
Please. That's awesome. All right, we'll put a link to that up on weatherbrains.com. So again, we're in the strange situation where, again, for those that are watching live, the bulk of this show is going to be recorded this week. And if you're listening to this, then you have no idea we had technical issues. But the interview with Mark, I'm looking forward to hearing that. We're not able to hear it live, but we'll be hearing it with the rest of you when the podcast audio version comes out. So again, before we go, a couple of quick logistical notes. Again, 2 shows this week. The next show will be Wednesday night of this week at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Same place, usual, live.bigbrains.media.com. No live shows next week. We'll release that Wednesday show to the world Monday. We'll get back to the regular order of things after that. So we're going to wrap this sucker up here. If you want to get in touch with us, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. All of our social media accounts are up on the website there as well. And Aubrey will have a double email segment next week. So thanks a lot for taking the time to listen. Hey, if you listen by iTunes, if you love those iTunes comments, if you like the show, hate the show, whatever, put them there. We'd like to read those. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. God bless. That's the shortest one we've ever done live.
I think so.
It'll all sound good in post-production. So.
That's right, baby. You fix them in post, man. Nobody ever knows. This is not going to be one of those nights where I walk in at 10:30 Central after the newscast and we're still live streaming. So that's when I really say the outrageous things. For those asking, we still don't know about our owners here, Brian. We have no idea if we're going to have a job. But the deadline is July 27th.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I guess something will be happening.
Yes. So, again, Mr. James and Mr. Brian need a job.com. That's the website to go through this week. Hey, thanks, guys. I'm going to go hang up and do some work with the production on this. Thank you, guys. Y'all have a great week.
What are they going to do in the studio, James, when you show up early?
Do what now?
What are they going to do over there in the studio when you show up early?
They might pass out. They've never seen me early on Monday night before. See you guys.